Building a career as a welding artist isn't just about making sculptures. It's about building an entire business, and that is an art form in its own. Welcome to WELD. I'm your host, Bo Wigington, and this week, I'm sitting down with Sarah Stork, a metal artist known for realistic animal sculptures that blend welding techniques, texture, and imagination to bring each piece to life. We get into the materials she uses, why she works intuitively instead of from a strict print, and her advice for welders looking to break into the sculpture world. We dive in right now. If people are not familiar with you and what you do, can you introduce yourself to the audience?
Sure. My name is Sarah Stork. I'm a welding artist out of Georgetown, Texas, and I've been making sculptures since 2015.
So, your art, you are a big animal person. You know, there's you have some of the most realistic animal sculptures that I've seen. You know, it's definitely, I would say, when I think of you, I think of animals and just really, really beautiful animals. What drove you to just focusing on that in your artwork?
Well, I think animals are a little easier to make than people, because if you do a person wrong,
they're going to be mad.
Yeah, you're going to have that didn't even look like that person, and then you're out. So
the animals don't complain.
Yeah, just get as close as you can, representing what it's supposed to be.
So, in the beginning of your journey, because you're very, very skilled, very talented, but we all have to learn, and it's hard learning. So, when you were first getting into it, what were some of the biggest struggles you had?
It was always just trying to figure out how I'm going to make a certain texture or how I'm going to start, because you have to break everything down to the most basic center of what it is, and then you having the other parts made and then adding it together. Prime example, saying a Barbie doll, you can take off the head and arms and legs, but you're left with the torso, and so you work on that, and then you make everything else separate, and then you just merge it together rather than trying to put it all together at once, because then you can't get in and clean in certain areas. So painting yourself in a corner.
What I've heard in the past, you wire it, you get your kind of skeleton and then go from there. Mm-hmm. What is your step one?
Oh, you take that soapstone, you go over the concrete, and you draw it out. That's the first part. I don't do the computers, even though my daughter was like, hey, you need to start doing some 3D design. I was like, I think I'll be fine with the, caveman drawing on my concrete. You'd be all right.
Yeah,
that's all I need. I don't need measurements, I don't do mathematics, and I don't do computers, and I just go with whatever I can go with and start adding, because you can always remove as you're working, and if you don't like something, you can change it.
That's where I get messed up. I've tried to do some sculptures. I've had many sculpture artists on the pod, and they're like, you gotta try it, man, you gotta get into it. And I don't have that mental, I don't see full sculptures in my brain and figure out how to do it. If I'm making a table, it's pretty easy for me to figure it out. It's just flat legs, cool, but jumping back a little bit to the textures, that's one of the things I'm most fascinated in, because typically if you get porosity in a weld, it's not a good idea. It's not a good time, but it makes a cool texture. Mm-hmm. What are some of your favorite texture techniques that you use?
Well, when I first started over at Austin Community College taking the structural code welding classes, stick welding, this is where I started learning various textures. And so when you had that fallout, and all of a sudden it would fall out, and you've got berries and hanging down.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, how did that happen? So you just start observing mistakes, and then you try to figure out how to recreate those mistakes to get those right textures. And that is just the same thing of you try to learn how to do a good weld, and then you repeat it. So when you find a texture that you like, you have to try to replicate it. And then you're like, okay, this is how I'm supposed to do this pattern.
And you said you learned some of these mistakes back in school. Were you going, was that your plan to be a structural welder or hardcore welder?
Actually, yeah, I was I have my associates in code welding. So I learned all the processes. My first welding class was oxy-fuel welding.
That's awesome.
And I guess they don't start that out anymore with people. They obsolete it, right?
Yeah.
You know, no more oxy fuel unless you want to make textures like Dave Madero, right? You know,
Yes.
you're sitting there like, yeah, you can do this and you can create beautiful, beautiful textures.
Yeah, I love his textures.
Mhm.
Like it's kind of like building a sand castle where you kind of like
Oh yeah, the drip castles. Yeah.
that's
Sit there for hours, getting the sunburn.
yeah. Well, why did you like what set you on this new path?
In the college, we were doing Skills USA competitions through the welding program. And one of them was the team fabrication, where it was a 3-person team and they built like a barbecue or some sort of rocket stove that you work together. And my instructor said, "Hey, Sarah," and this is Thomas Hinkle. He's like, "Sarah, will you want to join Skills USA and be on the team?" And I said, "Sure, why not?" And he goes, "All right, I'm going to take you over and meet these 2 guys who will be on your team with you." And I said, "All right." And we walked over and then he introduced me to them. They looked up, they laughed, and they went back to work. And I was like, well, I guess I'm not going to be on their team.
Dang.
And he's like, "How about you make a sculpture?" And I was like, I don't even know where to begin. I don't know where to begin. He's like, "Well, you just, start sticking together some sticks and, you can fill it in." And I said, okay. And that's where I started. And I went to Skills USA making sculptures at nationals. I got second the first year, and then the next year I had gotten gold at nationals. So then I was like, well, maybe I can do this from home and I don't have to do,
Yeah.
iron working or pressure vessel or API or, a pipeline or any of that stuff. So now I can work from home and as I please.
Last year was my first time going to Skills USA, the nationals and everything. It was really cool.
Yeah.
Like I didn't even know there was a sculpture competition.
Mm-hmm.
Have you been involved with like judging or any of that process?
I have. I've volunteered a lot of time down in Texas at the high school level and college level for sculpture for the last, I think, 4 or 5 years. But this last year I didn't go and do it because things were, kind of changing and I didn't have the time or the resources to do it. So I said, I'm apologize, but I can't this year.
I'm hoping I'll get down there next year again.
There were some good ones. I was watching on TikTok them, and there was this buck that somebody had made, and it was jumping over a log, and there was just so many dissimilar metals in there, and everything was so clean and so well done that I was like, this is a high school student. Wow. They got a very good future ahead of them on making sculptures.
Yeah.
But you can look at all the sculptures up and down. You can say, well, that person should be in automotive because they're, making like car parts and assembly. And then you got, the structural ones that are making barns. And you can see the potential of what that person, and then you have the artist. You go, that one's going to be making sculptures.
Yeah.
That one is got potential.
When it comes to materials, what are your favorite ones to use?
Oh, I would love to work with gold,
Gold,
silver, and, some of the higher end stuff. But, for purposes to keep things cost of affordability for my clients, mild steel is the way to go.
No.
Even though like people talk about the longevity of stainless, it still can rust, depending if you just leave it outside the elements. Same thing with, aluminum, you get oxidized. It doesn't last forever. I tell people, if you want something to last forever, get it made out of stone. Look at the pyramids.
Hey, they're still there. They're
Yes.
still there.
But
And no one knows how they made them.
I always tell people, once it's out of my shop and into your hands, it's up to you to maintain it. And a lot of these outdoor installations, you'll see that they'll have people come in and do like a redo of the patina or any kind of like cleaning of the sculpture itself, and that's included in some of the budgets for outdoor installations. So that keeps the artist working.
Well, and then so things like Scrap Fest. Have you ever thought about doing that competition before?
I haven't, but I'm also very scared of working with scrap metal.
Oh, really?
Yeah, only because I just don't know what's on that metal surface. I took metallurgy, so you realize that everything is a microstructure and then everything gets absorbed into that microstructure, and sometimes it never leaves. Just kind of like cutting into gas tanks. They say, oh, even though it's empty and you filled it with water, and then you empty it and you go and cut, and all of a sudden, kaboom.
Boom. Yeah.
So it still kind of scares me because I don't want that phosgene. I don't want like any other like fumes. Like, you could take a painted surface and have to re-weld it, and you take the paint off and you could still smell it.
Yeah.
And I don't know. So when it comes to like scrap, I'm like, I don't know. I would have to wear one of those, very good personal respirators, because it just kind of makes me dizzy if I have any kind of smell that's not just clean metal welding smell.
Yeah. Well, and you're here doing stuff for fume free.
Yeah.
We talked to I met Duncan the other day, and he was talking about the importance and like how serious it is. Like I've talked to multiple people talking about health, like respiratory health in the welding industry. It's like super downplayed. People like
they don't care.
They don't care, and they'll even like badger you for trying to protect yourself.
Yeah.
And
if you're gonna be dumb, you better be tough.
Yeah, I know.
But I mean, at the end of the day, 10 years from now, that's what you're gonna have to worry about. Your decisions of today will come up 10 years down the road, maybe 20 years, and then you'll realize, wow, I could have taken precautions, but I didn't. And just like for me, like I've been welding for the last 13 years, and it's only in the last year that I've been working with fume free that I've been breathing all those fumes in. And it makes you wonder, well, better late than never.
Yeah, that's a good perspective. I love the event Scrap Fest. We'll be there this year, but I didn't even think about, I was like, man, dang,
let's go to the junkyard.
Yeah.
And something that has like antifreeze on it.
Yeah, some brake clean,
Yeah, think about, all that. It's frightening. I've got kids, and I want to see grandchildren in my time, and I think about those things that, is this going to hurt me?
What is the main process you use for welding? I know you use TIG. There's some TIG moments to get textures and stuff.
Yeah, TIG moments for small areas and little itty bitty places and coloring, but mainly it's just the MIG. Because if I just did TIG welding to make my sculptures,
you'd still be there.
I would, I'd still be working on that very first one I made, 13 years ago.
Yeah.
But it'll take forever to fill it all in.
When it comes to MIG welding, most shops you're going to go in, they're running like 035.
Yes.
But for your sculptures, you're not really worried about high deposition or anything. So like what kind of wire are you using?
035.
035, baby. See? There it is. Well, advice for somebody who's never done a sculpture, never done it. Like, what would your advice, what do you start with? Like, what would be the best type of sculpture to start with?
I would say something small, no bigger than like 6 inches, and just put something together. Don't look at, hey, I'm going to make this beautiful, highly detailed something. Just do something simple. Just so you can get an idea on 3-dimensionally, fabricating something without using blueprint.
And then as far as like picking out materials that work, like, let's say like eyes, ears, things like common things that you work with, what are your favorite types of materials to use to make those?
Well, the eyes, I used to just do MIG welds and just, kind of build it up, and eventually there would be an eyeball. But now I'm like, hey, I'm going to get these ball bearings.
Yeah.
But that's a whole nother animal right there, because those are tempered. They are hardened steel, and they definitely react differently to, short circuit MIG welding. But the others is, round bar and sheet metal and just about anything that you can go to like a metal supply store. All ingredients.
There's like, here's my different crayons.
Yeah, heat it, beat it, and cut it up.
There you go. So you got to put that on a t-shirt.
Gosh.
I think they would sell like hotcakes.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. Well, if someone wants to, one, see some of your work, if they have been living under a rock in the sculpture world, if they want to see your work or reach out to you to maybe get a commission in the future, where do they find your stuff?
Well, they can find me on almost all social media platforms, just under my name, Sarah Stork, on LinkedIn, on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. But Facebook, I don't do any responses on Facebook. only because I didn't know everything was going to Facebook. And then I realized, oh my God, like all these posts have been there and I never replied to any of these comments. So I'm just kind of keeping the status quo of not replying on there. So don't go to the Facebook and like request, to anything from me or comment there, because I really won't see it, because I forget that I even have Facebook, because I'm always Instagram or TikTok or LinkedIn.
I'm very similar. Very similar.
You're like, oops.
Oh man, there's all these people over here I've been ignoring.
Then they get mad. You're like, you never respond. And I'm just like, you know how hard it is to run a business, and then like you're doing the shipping, the design, the PR, and then the filming and everything. And it's just me.
And the welding.
And I have to sleep sometime,
Yeah. Well, get your sleep. We'll ignore Facebook together.
Thank you.
And I appreciate you sitting down and chatting with me. I'm happy we finally got to do it.
You can check that box.
Check. It's like Pokemon. I got them all now.
Yeah. And every year there's another one, a new one that comes out, and it's so exciting to see some of the young ones that are coming out of high school. Like, they're going to do phenomenal things.
Yeah.
I'm so happy, like, to even help inspire them, and if they have questions, help them in any way I can, because it'd be nice to, people to share that knowledge, because that's what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Shared.
Thanks again for tuning in to another episode of WELD, and a huge thank you to Sarah for sitting down with me. I've been following your work for years, and our paths have crossed many times, but it was awesome to finally hear the story behind your process and how you built the name you have today in the art world. My biggest takeaway from this episode is there's a lot of directions you can take in welding, but nobody knows which one's right for you better than you do. Find what you love, follow it, and you might just end up with sculptures and collections all over the world. If this episode inspired you, share it with a friend who needs a little bit of a push to start making beautiful art. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I'd really appreciate it. It helps us keep putting knowledge in front of new welders out there. I'm Bo Wigington, and until next time, see you out there.